The president of Mexico says migrants started a deadly fire last night at an immigration detention center located near the U.S. border.
They reportedly set mattresses on fire after learning that they would be deported. The fire broke out inside a facility run by the National Migration Institute in the city of Juarez. Authorities say at least 39 people died. More than 24 others were injured. 68 men in total from Central America and South America, I hear many of them from Venezuela, were reportedly being held at the detention center.
Joining us now for more on this is CBS News immigration reporter Camilo Montoya-Galvez in our Washington bureau. Camilo, you actually traveled to Ciudad Juarez recently. Give us some larger context to this facility, to tensions in the region, to this, from what the Mexican leader says, was frustration by the migrants against the facility that led to the fire. Help us understand what happened there.
Hi, Errol and Lilia. Mexico, this part of Mexico, rather, in Ciudad Juarez, is a major destination for thousands of migrants and asylum seekers who are hoping to enter the U.S. and to seek asylum there. As you mentioned, I was recently there just last week, and I'd visited several shelters, and for the most part, they were over capacity, overcrowded, and overwhelmed. Shelter officials there are having to deal with thousands of migrants who are waiting for a chance and an opportunity to enter the U.S., most of them through this new mobile application process that the Biden administration has set up to allow migrants to secure an appointment, to show up at a port of entry, to seek asylum there. And that, for many people right now, is the only way to enter the U.S. because the Biden administration has expanded the Title 42 policy, which allows border officials to quickly expel migrants without giving them a chance to seek asylum if they cross into the U.S. illegally. When we visited the main town square in Ciudad Juarez, dozens of migrants surrounded us as soon as they saw our cameras to show us their phone apps, their phones that had error messages, and they wanted to tell us that they had been trying for weeks and months to get an appointment to enter the U.S. to no avail. We also know that there's a noticeable tension between migrants and Mexican immigration officials there who often detain these migrants after they're expelled from the U.S. and when they lose their permission to be in Mexico. And if it is indeed true, Lilia and Errol, that these migrants were protesting and that this fire stemmed from their frustration of them in Mexico and the fear of being deported, then I think that illustrates the anxiety and frustration that is building up in northern Mexico.
You're totally right, Camilo. I mean, we've heard just countless stories spending time there in El Paso and Juarez and all along the U.S.-Mexico border. I'm curious, who made it into this shelter, or not shelter, this detention center? Mm-hmm. What do we know about, because as you said, you know, in the town square, there's people who were camped out. There's all different kinds of destinations before being detained or as they are expelled from the U.S. But who would be the men in this shelter? Why would they be there?
So we know this is a detention facility run by the Mexican Immigration Institute, which again detains and deports migrants who don't have permission to be in Mexico. They are there stationed in Ciudad Juarez and in other border cities on the Mexican side of the border. And we know that this particular facility was for adult men. We know that many of them were from Guatemala, from Venezuela, and other Latin American countries. And again, they could be there because they were expelled by the U.S. under Title 42, and Mexico is trying to deport them deeper into Mexico or back to their home countries. We know that sometimes these centers are also used to process migrants who don't have a place to live in these cities, so that could be the case as well. But again, I think just more broadly, this incident just illustrates the broader frustrations among migrants here who are effectively in limbo, not knowing whether they will be able to enter the U.S.
And this isn't the first time we've seen this type of thing, Camilo. Any sense of changes that may happen as far as how Mexico detains people?
Well, that's right, Errol. This is unfortunately increasingly common. The United Nations actually calls the U.S.-Mexico border the deadliest land crossing in the world. Thousands of migrants have died over the past few years trying to reach the U.S. In fiscal year 2022 alone, 853 migrants died on American soil trying to cross the U.S.-Mexico border. That is a record, and it's likely an undercount as well because of data collection limitations. You know, over the past few days, we've seen migrants being found dead in train cars in Texas.
Yeah.
You know, last summer, over 50 migrants died in a tractor trailer outside of San Antonio. So this is definitely a deadly journey for many of these migrants, Errol.
Yeah, not to mention the ones that die along the way and even crossing the desert here. Camilo Montoya-Galvez, thank you so much.
Thank you, Camilo.
Thank you.